Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Voices and Votes, our town hall special meeting with returned talents, those who have gone abroad, lived and worked there for many years, but now they have returned to China. They are called Hikeway. China is looking to foster fair competition with its new foreign investment law as a continuation of reform and opening up. The law addresses concerns related to foreign companies and capital in China. So what are the challenges for implementation and enforcement? What new momentum can be injected into the Chinese markets? And in addition to tougher competition, what else will it mean for domestic businesses? At the same time, we'll take a look at the climate for Chinese companies overseas. To join us for this warm discussion about the prospects of Chinese businesses going abroad, I'm very happy to be joined in the town hall meeting by Xiang or Wang Xiaojian, Senior Executive of An Group, Kuang Ziping or Duan, Founding Managing Partner of Qiming Venture Partners, Tony Bizhou Liu, CEO of Cellular Biomedicine Group, and Cao Yu, an attorney with Hikeway and Partners. That's our topic. This is Dialogue. I'm Yang Ray. Welcome. Well, first of all, I need to have a clear definition about Hikeway in terms of having a context within which we can have a deliberate discussion about what it implies, what is implied by the foreign investment law, because I suppose you guys know the rules of the game on both sides across the Pacific. We start from Cao Yu, an attorney.
It's the English for Hikeway is the same as sea turtles. So we are sea turtles. We swam to study abroad and then swim back. Basically, we try to understand the rules of the game on both sides and try to be a bridge and a communicator and to help with the business.
Tony?
Yes. Hi. I think the sea turtle also has the homing factor. So you start from somewhere, then go out, bring something back, and then this is your nest. So that's where, to me, Hikeway is a home, is a base. That's why we return over here.
Duan?
I think the phrase carries a deeper meaning that, at least in my mind, I spent 15 years in the U.S. and I spent the next 25 years working here in China. So I've been back for quite some time. So in order to qualify for that phrase, you have to have a decent understanding of both cultures. It's not just a matter of spending a bit of time here, a bit of time there, and hence you are Hikeway. So I think for us who call ourselves Hikeway, we believe we have a pretty good appreciation of the cultures and also ways of doing business in both cultures.
Sean?
Well, I have been to the U.S. for over 20 years and have returned back to China over 10 years. So many years, in both countries. Talk about Hikeway. Yeah, Gui in Chinese means returning home. So this is from Chinese perspective. We are coming home. And the biggest assets, we bring back home is we are the bridge between the two countries, bridging China and U.S. and probably other side of the world, in Europe and other part of the world. And we have, just like Duan said, we know both cultures, and we can, further enhance the understanding from both sides.
So I believe that the focus of this discussion will very much be about sense and sensibility. You have the American mind, but the Chinese heart. The question number one, I'm afraid, is, does the passage of the foreign investment law mean completely equal and fair treatment for foreign investors in China? Tony?
I think the law itself, the intent is try to create an environment where it fosters competition and create opportunities for people on both sides, not just the Chinese business, but also for foreign investors. And also it does address the issue of IP issue in the past. So I think that's good for both sides of investors as well as the people over here benefit from it.
But is this issue about IP real? Where are all the cases that would be out there? I mean, I'm assuming we have lawyers here and economists. that there would be something. In some cases, people could point to and say, oh, yes, here's 16 cases where there was forced IP or where there was something beyond industrial espionage between companies that somehow the government is. Because I hear that a lot. I was former chairman of the International Trade Council for my state. What's going on? What are you guys, you know, how are you going to protect us? But I said, where's the case? What do you know?
Well, I mean, first is the case, but for me, I would ask, if you be in the States, and you stay in the States, like you said, 15 years, or
Over
you
20
stay in the
years.
States 25 years, or you 20 years, or I don't know how long you stay in the
5.
All right,
I'm not sure.
doesn't matter.
Right.
But you be in the States, you be in a completely different world. You're running in a completely legal different system.
Sean, will the law help level the playing field?
Well, I think first of all, the law is a great step forward for China. And foreign investments have been lobbying for level playing field. And I think this law is the greatest powerful guarantee of a sound investment climate here in China. And it's not going to be done overnight. And for sure, that there are going to be issues regarding protection of intellectual properties, you know, legitimate interest of foreign investment. But this is one step going forward, and we should expect more things to come. And also, I would say we have to pay attention to the regulations that will come in later stage together, you know, with the implementation of this foreign investment
Yeah,
law.
I agree with that last part, because what we have now is just like a skeleton.
Yeah,
But
it's a
there's
wig,
no muscles,
in the sense.
no organs, no skin, and so the devil's going to be in the details. And we don't know. It promises to be very helpful, but we don't know, in part because the law was kind of rushed through. The comment period went through February 24th. And so the law is being passed a couple weeks later. There's a lot more work to be done. I think the best we can say is that we can be hopeful.
I think that's a fair point. On the other hand, because you know, foreign investment is my day job, so we are a sizable U.S. dollar venture capital firm. So every penny we dole out is considered foreign investment. So that's what we do day in, day out. And for the last 10 years, as a representative of the Chinese Venture Capital Association, we have an annual trip to MOFCOM to talk to them about foreign investment. So a lot of the details have already been in place for many years with various circulars, except there's no law that governs all of that policies. So the implementation then varies from geographies to geography, towns from town, province to province. The biggest significance of this foreign investment law is that it becomes a law. So a lot of my colleagues in the foreign investment arena said there's nothing that changes from combining the 3 separate laws into this one common foreign investment law. No, but on the other hand, before the current law, there wasn't a law. So the different geographic locations use their own interpretation when it comes to foreign investment. Now there is a law that you can point to. It's going to make life a lot easier for those of us who do this day in and day out. So I think that's probably the biggest significance, rather than, oh, now that auto companies can have a fully owned subsidiary here in China, you know, those are probably less significant.
Okay, during the run-up to a
momentum.
Mar-a-Lago summit meeting, a possible Mar-a-Lago summit meeting, the second of its kind between President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump, Lighthizer, architect of this trade negotiation, said recently to the media, both sides are facing structural issues, meaning very, very difficult to apply the finishing touches. So, Tony, what do you make of the most difficult part?
I think, as the audience raised questions about devil in details, this, I agree with Duane. One, this is the first step to bring this into a law. It's formal. In the past, might be guidance here from different regions, different forms. In the law, that's what first step. to me. Second one is that transparency. In the past, we don't know whoever has different rules, different probably terms. But now it's sunshine over here, transparent. Everyone knows exactly what you have, what issues or specific terms you have. So any disputes, you have something to go after. For instance, one of the things about the VIE structure in the new investment, no longer in the past, maybe part of that domestic side, maybe VIE structure, but still viewed as a foreign company. But now it's all treated equally. So there's no such things as far as something behind or something this and that. Now it's totally transparent to everybody. So next step is as they meet, two leaders. One would hope. But that, again, start from top. When leaders meet, this is a mentality, this is a principle. Then up to the next levels, get down details. And I think that this is really tremendous, good step
The
forward.
two heads of state did meet on the sidelines of their summit in Argentina and laid the groundwork for something that promises to be a long process. But Cao Yu, what do you think of the relationship between the government and the market? That promises to be yet another major obstacle getting in the way. The United States is firmly opposed to any alleged government interference or intervention with the industrial policy. Do you think this will be the last straw that breaks the back of the camel?
Well, I wanted to start to say that in the third plenary session of the Party Congress a few years ago, it was pronounced clearly that the party, the Chinese government, sees the market as the critical source, the critical mechanism to allocate market resources. So that is, as a matter of mentality, I think there is consensus from the top of the country.
So there is the political will and the vision for the Chinese leadership to see it through.
Yes, and the next thing I wanted to say is that history has its inertia. It's just the sort of tracks. You don't just you can't just do away all the things that are blocks, roadblocks, deal with all the roadblocks overnight. So there needs some patience, I think.
I think it's very important to realize that the goal of achieving a level playing field is not going to be achieved overnight. One piece of legislation is not going to do all the job. It's a continual process. It's a big country. It's a complicated economy. There are many issues. There are many things will pop up here and there. And I think the significant, going back to the question about this piece of legislation, the significance of this act is to lay the legal foundation for the future, that things can be done in a different way. We have a sort of a principle legislation here that we can go to. There will be many those implementation guidelines coming from various government ministries and departments. And even these things are not going to be enough to address all these things. So I think, with this effort, the American side should realize that we are moving in sincerity towards that direction. And we have laid the legal foundation for doing that. I'll just give you one example. In the past, no companies, foreign companies, have dared to challenge, for example, administrative ruling from the administration. And I think that's to change. Why cannot be challenged? Why cannot be challenged in a court of law?
Exactly. A follow-up question on your point is whether forced technology transfer and illegal government interference in foreign business operations practices that have come under the spotlight in the trade disputes with the United States, will that happen? John?
Well, this new foreign investment law has provided at least legal protection, for those, like you said, intellectual properties or legitimate business interest. And one example, I think, in the past, you can't imagine, Tesla would set up 100% foreign-owned enterprise in Shanghai doing manufacturing. And now they have the entire operation for themselves. And if they are forced to transfer technology to China, I don't think they will set up the factory here.
Well, on the other hand, I think on this note and also in relation to the earlier question, well, where are all the litigations or complaints about forced transfer? Because companies who want to carry on a long-term business endeavor here in China would not dare to bring those complaints forward. Now that there is such a law and there is such and in your opening piece, the momentum I think you're going to see a lot more of such challenges. So when we see these complaints in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, I think things are getting better because people are willing and daring to step forward to say, well, a Chinese company has just violated my intellectual property rights here, or a local government has hinted very strongly, in order for you to set up in my geography, you better transfer technology. And I think such things did happen in the past. But I think in the future, there will be fewer, but there will be more complaints.
But gentlemen, it's not only the law we're talking, it's the open market. We're talking about the open market. That is one of the main points in the trading discussion.
Well, as a lawyer, I wanted to just talk a little bit from the development, the history of the law. And this gentleman just now mentioned that the law is just a skeleton without details. But it is basically it is meant to replace the current 3 laws: the equity joint venture laws, the contractual joint venture laws, and wholly owned foreign enterprise laws. So each of the laws has a set of implementation rules supporting it, promulgated by the State Council, and supported by a vast number of rules and circulars published by the relevant ministries. So it's in itself, it's a fairly sizable system.
In China, politically, yes, we do have a single voice, but in business circles, I'm afraid it's not the case. For example, the law, or many laws, may have been abused at the local level by the authorities to suit their local conditions. An important part of the new or renewed foreign investment law says strictly no such abusive behavior would be allowed, and you'll be held to the account if you do so. So given your practical experiences in domestic investment, Dwayne and Xiang, Tony, have you ever met such problems at the local level, and do you think this new foreign investment law will prevent local authorities from abusing the law any longer?
I have high hopes. And we did encounter such cases quite often. And in the past, you would say, well, we'll complain to our higher authorities and whatnot. Now we can complain to a book. That book is the foreign investment law, and it's not the ministry level, it's not State Council level, it is the law of the land.
Do you think verification is the most important part of the foreign investment law?
One thing about China is if the top has the determination and has given out the order on certain things, and I think the locals will have to follow through. And I think the locals will observe the law. But still, we have to wait and see.
I don't know if you agree with me or not, but in the United States, we talk a lot about government in the sunshine. And I actually think that this new law has the potential, both legally and practically, to promote government in the sunshine, because all eyes within China and outside of China will be focused on how this law is implemented.
Definitely. I totally agree. I think this is, again, no one is saying we will not have challenges of implementing this. However, this is a starting point of setting a foundation, a principle that people can all adhere to or go after with. Local government, maybe in the past we don't have one single unified the rules. Now we have one you can go after, look as reference. So therefore, from that perspective, that local government, as they start to deviate from it, the entrepreneurs' business can start look, say, this is reference, this is where the principle is set. Implementation, again, you can argue in the court of law. That's where it determines the merits, to me.
How does Chinese companies' foreign expansionist strategy change over time? What kind of environment are Chinese enterprises overseas facing today? Dwayne?
It's certainly an increasing phenomenon. I mean, as we all know, many of the Chinese mobile phone manufacturers are looking at international expansion as a major source of growth. So if you look at the Indian market, the top few cell phone providers are from China. And many of the Chinese internet companies are looking at international market as their first stop. The very popular the app TikTok in America, it's from China. So I think it's a given. And that's why the foreign investment law will be very important for Chinese companies going abroad as well. It reciprocates. If China continues to have draconian inbound investment regime, it's going to make Chinese companies expanding overseas that much more difficult. So I think it's going to be a new world.
As a lawyer, I think we also have to think about other more practical factors. And one of them is domestic attitude, whether it's in Europe, United States, or wherever. And unfortunately, the politics of the day are poisoning a lot of the public's minds. So I think whether it's President Trump or other leaders, they're influencing what people think about China. So it's not just about Huawei and backdoors. It's about all Chinese businesses that are getting tarred with the same brush. And I really worry about that.
But hopefully that's the win of the day rather than the trend. And hopefully it blows over. If it doesn't, then we do have a serious problem.
Now, Xiang, you've worked in Southeast Asia for a number of years. Do you think, as part of Eastern culture, a relationship between businesses and politicians get nasty sometimes? How difficult is it for Chinese companies to fare very well? What can they do to avoid legal risks or to minimize the negative impact of such risks?
Okay, going international means you take a global or worldwide approach to your marketing, your production, your operations. And it requires entirely different way of thinking and perspective on your business. And we see a lot of Chinese companies, and they are very eager to go international. The way they go international, of course, you want to transfer your great success stories, experiences here in your home market in China. And on the other hand, we also see Chinese companies, when they go overseas, they go international, they become very timid, even though they take over, they acquire rundown or bankrupt international companies in US or in Europe, because they are so timid. They don't even dare to send in their management personnel, and they only put their investment there and watch from distance. And there is no integration between international business and the overall company organization. And you really see these two extremes.
Do you think ZTE is a wake-up call for Chinese companies going global with the promotion of transparency and appeals for compliance with the local laws?
I agree that it is a wake-up call. At least I see it in this way. There are challenges facing Chinese companies going abroad, doing business abroad, investing abroad. Once I try to summarize it, because I've witnessed quite a few outbound investment cases. There is the challenge of not understanding the regulatory environment. There is it's all about mentality. There is the challenge of attitude. It's a challenge of our companies, because we now have money and we might just feel like we're arrogant. We're doing business overseas. We don't need you. You need all our money. That kind of thing. And also we have the shortage of human resources, experienced, well-trained, this kind of human resources. We need to, utilize, access the system and utilize the resources in each jurisdiction that we do business in.
Many Chinese companies who want to get listed in the...
I want to raise this one point about lack of human resources. In the 1980s and 1990s, when foreign companies come into China, we have heard reports after reports complaining that why foreign companies are not hiring local here. We didn't even talk about the issue of whether these foreign companies operating in China lack of human resources. But now when Chinese companies go abroad, we talk about lack of human resources. I don't understand this argument at all. Okay, why don't they hire local people there? Why don't they create jobs in the countries they're investing? So that's my question.
It's an extension of the concept of human resources that I mean. Well, it's also, in the end, it's a matter of mentality and experience. Sometimes you learn an experience in a hard way.
But it's not necessarily human resource that could be deployed in that geography and manage the business of that country. It's the human resource and the international mindset that enables the senior executives to run a multinational business. Right? So I don't think it's an Indonesian country manager that you need to send from Beijing.
I think particularly difficult for Chinese companies is cultural compatibility. And why cultural compatibility is a major issue for Chinese companies? China is very unique. We have a very unique culture here. And also we have a very unique political, economic systems here in China. The way you create your business here in China and become successful is different from if you run your business in Europe, in US, or in the Philippines or Indonesia. So it's so hard for Chinese entrepreneurs or managers to go overseas, manage international business the way you do here in China. So that cultural compatibility has become a major issue for Chinese companies. We don't realize that, but it's a true issue. It's a lot easier for Indians or for the Filipinos going to US and run a US company.
Just for telling the cell phone maker like Hikeway, they doing very good business.
Exactly.
International.
Yeah.
They have structures international all over the world. They're doing almost
I
40,
agree
50 countries.
Still few companies, from China doing well, but so many companies have go international.
Well,
they all failed.
Quickly, each of you, 4 panelists, to give me a quick answer about the political risks other than the legal ones. Do you think the Chinese investment would fall victim to their political chemistry, political animosity?
I think the best way to protect yourself is go and do everything according to the local laws and also international laws. And that's the best protection you can give yourself. And when it comes to other political risks, it's out of your control. The only thing you can control for the risk is you do everything legally.
Two sets of outbound foreign investment out of China. One is the government-sponsored program, where I think there is tremendous local political risk at the host country. There's also the enterprising private entrepreneurial investments, such as Alibaba's investment in Paytms and then Xiaomi's operation in India. These are thriving. And yes, you run into political risk here and there, but these are just way of doing business, and I think those will continue to thrive and continue to succeed.
And the case in Malaysia, is no exception. Dr. Mahathir overthrew the contract that his predecessor Najib signed with the Chinese companies regarding the future of the high-speed railway. Do you think this is part of the textbook lesson?
Well, I think it's extremely important to do due diligence. To do due diligence on the legal, financial, societal aspects. And secondly, take calculated risk, I think.
Tony, what do you think?
My professional life, I worked for both large companies before my current company as a biotech CEO. One large company is still a global leader that I see over time we struggle, different countries. Cultural aspect of it, yes, political is one part of it. The question is, does the political issue hindering the growth or impact the management? Yes, it does. For instance, for a Chinese company, when you send employees or management, you trust it can help you send your tech expertise overseas. It may not be easy for you to get visas as you desire. For U.S. companies, for instance, company China, easier getting work visa. That's just one aspect of it. But overall, understanding the culture, regulation, business integration, I think acquisition is first step. In Chinese, what we call 管杀不管买, meaning you kill it, you don't know how to bury it. In this case, you buy the assets, but you have to integrate it. That's the crack of the details. If you don't get that one done, that's why you hear losses. So I think next 5, 10 years, you will continue to hear losses here and there. But people will learn from it, then say, find assets, what are you trying to get objective? Is it business? Is it technology? Is it people? You have to be clear what you're getting into.
Pretty articulated. The next major concern is the protectionists today tend to abuse the concept of national security. How can Chinese companies be protected from unfair protectionism measures? Sean. National security, such a sensitive issue that even aroused the anger of Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada.
Avoid that market.
Is that a shock therapy? Is that a shock therapy? Come on, is that a shock therapy?
Again, I'm not a lawyer. All my life, politically, I'm trying to stay away from political arena as a business guy or technology guy. So the way in the Huawei scenario plays out, I think the Huawei started to take this to the court, because there's a lot of saying about you have IP issues and espionage and this and that. I think the best way is, since U.S. or Europe and China now have the rule of law, the best case is present evidence in the court of law, and if anything, I'm sure they will come out. If something they didn't do, I'm sure over the process it will be clear. So best way to go. People start to figure out what's the best way to handle this kind of situation.
One major issue is unemployment rate in the year 2019. You are all employers to a large sense, to a large degree. So Sean, what advice would you give to university students about the qualifications and the severity, particularly, of the job market?
Well, different sectors, of course, have different prospect, and our sector is mainly in the energy business, and we expect our business will grow well in double figures, compounded annually, and we are doing very well and making great growth every year. So I would say in the future, what we need is really management personnel with technical or technology knowledge. And today's business, especially in terms of management, we all digitalize our management. And managers, management personnel, senior staff, not enough just know your management skills, and you have to know technology.
China announced deeper tax cuts to boost its economy. Is the tax burden on private enterprises really alleviated as a result? Lawyer or the entrepreneurs?
My short answer is no, it's not steep enough. I think this is because we invest in small businesses, and they are facing very, very tough challenges. And I think the current tax rates for small business is still too high. Both the business tax as well as the Social Security and the health and everything combined. The combined loading on employers is still very high.
I actually, from a different angle, because my company has been investing, we invest millions each year in research for the, you can say, cancer drugs. But I almost sometimes given day wake up and say, I'm trying to solve a social problem where China has 4 to 5 million new cancer patients per year. It's mind-boggling. So many people get cancer. So my job is to raise money to get the scientists, best talents, whether from US, Europe, and China, together to research, find the best way to help these people. So in this stage, when you talk about tax, I'm way or far away from, paying tax. I'm looking for the incentives, how to help get the people over here and get incentives, get talents over here so that years later we can pay tax. That's my top thing in my mind.
Do you favor, in the past, the government has been top-loading. They basically loosened up the fiscal side, so they asked the banks to kind of trickle it down. That didn't seem to work. Now they're taking this thing where we're going to put it at the bottom, give tax cuts and things. I know you say that it's maybe not enough, but is that approach better than the top, just giving money to the banks and seeing it go to municipalities and real estate companies?
I think the bottom-up approach is certainly much better. I think tax cut is the way to go rather than various stimulus programs where it could be misguided, misused, and inappropriately allocated. So I think tax cut is the way to go.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I was going to tag on to your last question. I was going to say that the tax cut is among the many consolidated efforts by the government trying to boost the economy and make it dynamic and more market-oriented. And the major driving force to create jobs, I believe that it's going to be deeper market-oriented reform, so that it makes it more easier for people to do business and for people to create more jobs and enterprises in the marketplace.
In fact, on the point of tax cut, one thing I want to add is the current tax cuts are too small. So when you lop off like 1% from 40%, you hardly feel it. And then with the problem of less collection before and more strict collection now, it just goes away. So, but on the other hand, we all appreciate the big government budgets, the need for revenues, and so on. Now, I think the U.S. approach of having temporary but higher, steeper cuts for a period of time may not be a bad idea. Instead of cutting like 2%, and say, well, I can't cut too much, or cutting 10% permanently, we're saying, for the next N period of time until the next Congress, we're going to cut 5% out of your 17% value-added tax. Then, well, right now it's not value-added, but still, that's the idea. So the enterprise feel a bigger impact. They're more willing to invest and more willing to hire.
But the fact is that the American middle class has been stagnant for the last 20 years. Real income is only just beginning to increase. So when you say that these tax cuts, who are they actually helping?
They're helping the business.
Business.
Right. So, that's a much longer debate, right? But at the end of the day, if we do want at least one goal is to stimulate business growth. We can have a second debate on where it trickles down to and who benefits, yada, yada. That's a different story. But if our goal is to stimulate economic growth, then tax cut is a very powerful
I think
tool.
this tax reduction issue also has a lot to do with the accusation against Chinese governments about its industrial policy. See, a lot of the tax dollars, actually tax money, is actually geared towards subsidizing companies in a sort of discretionary way for industrial policy purposes. And I think this thing has to change. Otherwise, why would you tax companies more heavily and now give me some money back, as a way of subsidizing, and then be accused by everyone in the world? It's just unnecessary, right? So I think, and it's also I think you're absolutely right in saying that in the process that creates a lot of problems, misappropriation of funds and corruption and all that. So I think, and it's absolutely right that we have to say goodbye to this era. And move on and providing a level playing field and get away all these sort of discretionary, arbitrary subsidies towards companies, and by, in my opinion, abusing the tax money collected from companies.
President Trump is accused of going the other way around by rising on the platform of protectionism and unilateralism. Well, globalization very much means domestically in China, the transformation of family-based small and medium-sized businesses. I got a strong impression in southern coastal areas like Guangdong, Fujian, small and medium-sized enterprises were very quick in transforming their businesses from labor-intensive to capital and technology-intensive businesses. The case in the Changjiang River Delta region, like Zhejiang, Jiangsu, Shanghai, or in eastern China, northern China would be much worse. So what do you think of the chance for technology companies to catch up? And the basic issue, I'm afraid, by the end of the day, is transformation of the traditional businesses into or that can possibly morph into knowledge-based, technology capital-intensive companies. Tony.
I think this is the right direction. It's going to take some time to do. Given the China's larger population, you still have the urbanization, people from the rural countryside to the city. That's going to take some time to get there. And then once you get there, there are still structural issues from the manufacturing into high-tech area. As a business the leader, I've noticed in China last few years, from having a business get started over here, it's getting tougher because your costs rising, whether the housing, whether the labor, the salary, and other benefits all add up to the cost. So when we talk about cost, it's just one component. To overall increase the China business competitiveness abroad, we need to definitely find a better way instead of relying on labor to compete. The days of competing labor, cheap labor is over. You need to focus on high tech. Even you have abundant labor, you still look at whether artificial intelligence and other internet capabilities can help you drive the efficiency. That's the only way long-term you can survive.
Cao Yu and Sean, Dwayne, do you think the current economic downward pressure might be used as an opportunity? Because companies might thrive on crisis in that as part of the real economy, they have difficulties having equal access to loans, particularly for the SMEs, and therefore they are forced to transform themselves from labor-intensive, environmentally unfriendly businesses to something opposite. Cao Yu.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm just a lawyer from my tunnel vision. As a lawyer, I can share some of the experience which is at least indirectly related to the topic. For example, we see direct investment, foreign direct investment increasing. I mean, our projects increasing, and those projects in the like IP area, like technology area, projects are increasing. It's not like in the early days, it's more like investment in manufacturing and energy labor-intensive stuff. So I do agree that it's actually a chance, an opportunity for foreign investment to take advantage of the current status and assets may be cheaper. And one important thing is relating to Dieter's comments a while ago is that the foreign investment law speaks of, represents a major change in mindset and mentality in that it pronounces the term negative list, which means whatever the government doesn't prohibit you to do, then you are allowed to do. So that is it's just a matter of paragraphs, maybe in the law, maybe just provision, but it represents a very, very important change in mentality.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a wonderful dynamic discussion and brainstorming about the impact and implications of foreign investment law. It's a landmark document. Whether it will lay the groundwork for avoiding the most devastating trade war between the biggest economies, we're going to wait to see. I thank you so much for your participation, although the silence on this side is not appreciated. This side is very noisy and naughty, but that has added to the value of our brainstorming here. I thank you so much. Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Well, great. Never thought we would have this session together.
Yeah.